Daniel, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Oh, that you are. That you look great, man. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Such a treat. I want to thank you, man, so much for wanting to share in this podcast with me.
So happy to be here. It's such an honor and a blessing.
And likewise. I must say that you are my first guest in sharing in this podcast. Talk to me, Dad. More so because just always got a sweet resonance from you. And now that you are a dad, it just really made me curious. And I'm going to speak just a little bit on my path of not being a biological dad, but have raised children. And in meeting you, having the pleasure of knowing, and I'm going to say a pleasure because I know things about Journey, that you've gone through some processes before you became the dad that you are today. The opportunity of being pregnant before, and then there was a transition that took place with your first child. Could you please share that with us?
Yeah, so, it's coming up on 5 years ago that our son was born. Solomon Hawk, he was born May 3rd, 2016. And we didn't do an ultrasound or anything like that when Cece was pregnant because we're kind of hippies and we just didn't really feel the need. It seemed like everything was going great in her pregnancy. And then we were all set to have a home birth, and it was going great, just kind of dream home birth. And then at a certain point in the childbirth experience, it stalled a little bit. And the midwife who was there started to kind of check in on the baby's heart rate, and she was monitoring it, and she noticed that it had escalated. And then that was our first sign that things might not have been going as well as we thought. So yeah, we ended up eventually transferring to the hospital, which was nearby. And once we got there, they recommended a C-section, and that's what we ended up doing. And as soon as our son was born, it was clear that he had anencephaly, which was a major birth defect. So the reality of it is a large portion of his brain was actually on the outside of his skull. And that was, as you can imagine, just totally crushing and just the most depth of human experience that I've experienced. Have my wife, my partner, and someone who I just love so much there on the operating table, giving of her body so much in the C-section and everything, and then to be told by the doctors that our son had this defect and that he wasn't going to make it, without machine assistance more than a day.
Did she go the full term?
Yeah, so she actually went over. So we were gonna potentially go to the hospital to induce the labor, and then the midwife gave her some herbs, and she was actually close to 42 weeks, so just about where the max was that everyone felt comfortable with.
Wow.
So then that was it. It was Solomon was with us for a day. Honestly, to be perfectly honest, when I first heard the news and everything, my concern shifted very strongly to my partner, to Cece, where I was just thinking, oh, she's going to be crushed. She's not going to make it through this. I thought I'll deal with my feelings, my emotions later. I thought, well, the baby, we had so much love, but we don't really know him yet. So I'm just going to focus on her and make sure she's okay. And it was a journey, man. It was like we knew him for 22 hours before he ultimately passed away. And over the course of that time, Cece kind of woke up from her anesthesia, and she's just right away. The tears are going to come. I can feel them coming, but right away she was just such a wonderful mom, She, as soon as she came to from the sedatives and stuff, she just wanted to just see her boy, and even though she knew, you know, what was going on with him, she wanted to hold him and get to know him how best she could. And seeing her and seeing that really allowed me to understand like the profound nature of parenthood. I mean, when I look back on it, I'm sure we'll talk about it more, but I feel like part of the journey is in parenthood. The biggest challenge, I think, is to understand that we don't really have control over our children. Like, we don't have control over their choices or their life path or the happenstance that happens to them throughout their journey. And I feel like we got just the most intense crash course in that, because it just came right away. And it was like, all right, here, are you going to love and be unconditional? Are you going to be hardened? How are you going to be with this child, even though you know you have no control, and that he's only here for an instant and it's not at all what you want, and he's on his way.
I'm taking this in, learning more and more about this. I didn't know that depth. And you said in the beginning, like, you know what I mean, and I'm saying to you, I don't know what that feels like. And to honor you in that particular space, when I was told, it was very challenging for us on the outside to look, because we was holding so much space. I can only express what I felt. But for you, as you just shared, this is when I say, talk to me, Dad.
Yeah.
Because what you experienced was your experience. And to hear of the frequency that you was holding into, how much you identified that with your beloved. How has Solomon's life affect you today? Even though you are a dad, but how does that life force affect you today?
You know, as soon as I knew Cece was okay, and honestly, like, we shared a joke, like, early on, you know, where she laughed, and just her laughing really unlocked some things for me. Just knowing that she was going to be okay and we were going to be okay. But he just, I don't know, he was this solid little boy. He looked just like me, you know, and just getting to hold him and see his presence and steadiness. I don't know, he wasn't afraid. He just felt like this warrior brought to us, you know. And yeah, from right away, it felt very clear to me that, like, I and we can't let this crush our spirit, because I don't think that's honoring to him. I don't think we can allow that. Like, yes, we need to grieve. We need to, you know, this is horrible. This is tragic. And it's good to feel all that. And we did, and we still do. Like, obviously, I feel it now, you know. But I knew that it couldn't crush us, that we needed to allow that experience ultimately to lift us up. So I've been focused on that. It's been a whole different journey for Cece, just because, you know, the grief of a mother, I can't speak about that. You know, that's something that I've only witnessed and can only know peripherally. Just as far as, like, you know, mothers, they give up so much, like, as far as their body and their time, and there's so many ways that only a mother can go to the child. Like, as caring of a dad as you want to be, as present as you want to be, there's a lot, especially in the early part of well, obviously of pregnancy, but then of, like, you know, being a parent, where that's the mother's role. So her journey with it has been a whole other thing. But recently, I mean, it's come in stages. Like, I think with our daughter Isara being born, and she was born 2 years ago, just had her second birthday. a lot of healing happened, being able, and she was able to do what they call a VBAC, the vaginal birth after cesarean. So she was able to give birth naturally, and just getting through that, and then meeting, I started to tell you about it the other day, but just the moment of Isara being born and we just saw she was healthy, and we got to, the release that happened was just immense. I mean, I was just bawling. We were all bawling, just, so overjoyed. So I think that was a big moment for Cece's healing and kind of movement on the journey. And then recently, she has noticed that kind of a cloud has lifted from her spirit. I think it really pushed us, because we were both people who've always believed a lot in intuition and in trusting the universe, and that's a lot of how we got together and a lot of how we've lived our life. And then this experience happened, and it really rattled us. So there's been a journeying back to, like, how do we get back? Not to ignore the wound or anything like that, but how do we embrace that wound and move forward as strong or stronger than before?
There's so much depth in this story around Solomon. That is bringing up something in me, and thank you for sharing with me is your connection to and what you're feeling for what Cece was feeling, and what I am after with you is wanting men to understand that your feelings during that process, and there's more from, as you're sharing with me now, I am feeling so much more than words. And so being that Solomon has transitioned, do even still today, or has that rolled over into Isara, do you still feel connected to that spirit, or has that spirit shown itself up as the female into Isara? For you?
I still feel very connected to Solomon. And I feel like Isara, our daughter, is the second child.
Okay, gotcha.
And I think it's made us and me really just, like, appreciate her that much more. I mean, everything that happened with him, we just feel so blessed to have her. But I definitely, to answer your question, I definitely do feel connected with him. He's got the name Hawk, and that name came to us in a very magical kind of synchronistic way. And we all took on that last name since his passing. And when we see hawks, we always feel connected. There's a lot of moments, a lot of times in nature where I just kind of feel his spirit. I feel like he has kind of a soaring, majestic spirit to him. On day-to-day life, like, I'm not connecting with him that much, although Cece does we have his picture displayed in our house, and Isara knows him by name and is like, oh, brother Solomon. She knows, like, as much as she can as a 2-year-old, but she knows his name, she knows who he is. But day-to-day life, I don't think of him that much, but honestly, he's there, always there, and then when the grief comes, it's actually very sweet for me to feel. Like, I really feel like it's an honoring to him, and it's a gift for me to be able to get in touch with that within myself. And I don't know, I personally feel like as a man, just being able to know grief and sadness and tears is very valuable. So I'm very thankful for that, amongst a lot of other things that he's helped show me. There's also one last thing, is just a guiding force. Like, another thing that came to me quickly with him was, as soon as he passed, a quick kind of inspiration was, this is a good impetus to make my life meaningful. yeah, just more kind of like momentum to keep on my journey, because life is so precious. And he had 22 hours, so far I've had 38 years. Like, I just want to keep on living, just really appreciating and really just honoring this time that I've been given.
Your sharing right now is opening up other spaces of awareness in me. And when I hear you say gives you a purpose and what it is that he has brought, I always looked at you as a person of purpose. I've always known you as a person who felt like he was on a mission. And to hear you say that there was another well, what is that? What is it that Solomon, I know you got it now with Isara.
Yeah.
But what is it about Solomon that, if you can put words to it?
Yeah, I appreciate you reflecting that to me, and I think there's truth in that I've always kind of felt like I've had purpose, and I've felt gratitude as well for this life. So it wasn't all new, but like you said, I felt like an extra layer of it, an extra profoundness of that feeling of just just recognizing like how fleeting life can be, and really reflecting on what I'm doing here, just how, I really do feel like I became a father with Solomon, and there's things that I've learned as a day-to-day father that I didn't know, and the evolution has continued. But I think just that the first moment of Cece having the test and saying like, we're pregnant, I felt like an expansion happened in my heart and in my awareness of the world. And then it just, seeing him the first time and then knowing he was gonna go, it was just all expanding my heart and adding to this vision of like, okay, how do I want to show up in this world? What percentage of my time am I going to be distracted? What percentage of my time am I going to be on my mission? What is my mission? I think a lot of the realization that's come since him is just the importance of unity and harmony within myself, within my relationship, within my community, within the world, as much as I can help promote that. So just kind of doubling down on all that stuff, really, and in a lot of ways just kind of like expanding the boundaries of my heart and my spirit in order to do that work more meaningfully.
There's a part of me that chuckles inside in this sense, but what you just did was articulate a confusion, I believe, based on how society has projected the awareness of coming in with the information that we're pregnant. Meaning, when I was told that by a beloved, who we later, because of immaturity on our behalf, teenagers, when I was told that, I got scared, not knowing what that meant. And not knowing what that meant, hearing you say, it's like all of a sudden this world opened up that you didn't feel as though you were prepared. Me speaking out.
Yeah.
And as you are articulating how that expansion happened for you, you put it in words that I find to be very important for men to really understand what that feeling really is. Men have a historic image put on them when it comes down to bringing a life into this world. Provider, protector, and not have an opportunity to talk about their feelings of how they would go about doing that. What does that really mean? So if I'm saying a protector, do I have to have this big house? You know, do I walk around with a shield? Or to be a provider, I got to get this job to keep this money coming in. But what about your feelings? What does that triggers inside of you? And your use of language took it to a whole nother space of awareness. And I'm so grateful that you were able to articulate that in such an authentic way. When you learned for the second time that you all were pregnant again, that moment, what got stirred up in you? In you.
Well, I felt scared. No, I'm just kidding. No,
I can only imagine because of the loss, the transition of Solomon.
Yeah.
And the concern.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, so, well, I just gotta fill in a tiny bit that in that time in between where Solomon passed and you know, Isara first became known to us, there was a long period of healing and there was a long period of depression for Cece that she was going through. So when she came to me with the idea to have another one, you know, and it just came kind of in an instant. We hadn't been talking about it much, and she hadn't seemed open to it, and I had a lot of questions as to how to show up to support her, what that was going to be like. And then she just kind of offered the idea, and we went for it. And so when Cece took the test and said she was pregnant, I felt a lot of things at the same time. I felt a big sense of relief, a big sense of excitement. There was some kind of fear, and only about how Cece was going to respond, how her healing was going to continue through it. But yeah, I was ready. I mean, I really feel like we were parents, you know, I felt like I mentioned before, we had this microcosm crash course of parenthood, and we kind of had the whole experience, you know, in such a short condensed period of time. So yeah, when the second one came, it really felt like that. It felt like, oh, okay, we're going to have to learn a lot of day-to-day technical stuff. But as far as my heart and spirit, it already felt very expanded and prepared to hold that space for a child. And I was ready. So I felt ready. I mean, yeah, and honestly, just if you or anyone could have come in that moment and just said, look, Cece's gonna have a healthy pregnancy and this baby's gonna be born healthy, I would have felt not a fear, not a hesitancy in the world. I just would have thought, great, bring it, let's do this, we're ready. So that was it. You know, there was some sense of as much as the pregnancy was beautiful and hard and everything, there was some sense of let's get to the part where we find out this baby's gonna be okay.
Did you ever just fall asleep lying on CC's stomach?
Oh, plenty of times.
How was that?
That's great, man. I loved just the experience of having a partner who is pregnant. I love the sense of pride I felt. I'm somebody, to speak for a second just on like societal misconceptions or weirdness around female bodies. This was a whole journey into appreciating fullness. I mean, I think that's just it feels so crazy to me, just the way our society really is obsessed with this skinniness and anorexia and all this stuff, and that's a whole other conversation we could get into. But it was just getting to see her be so full and ripe and blossoming, and this baby coming, and just I obviously, she's my partner. I think she's beautiful, but just seeing her go through that was so beautiful to every part. My body, my mind, my spirit, my eyes, just every part was so appreciative and attracted, and just felt prideful and grateful for that. And carrying this baby, she was so graceful with it. It was just awesome, man. It was so great. I loved that experience, and I loved the baby, and I'd be laying down, and feel a little tap on my face and give a rub, and that was great.
As you spoke a little while ago, societal's image or perspective and the disappointing phase that this society has taught, that when women go through those stages, for some reason, how society has created this, that the man feels less attractive to their partner because she's no longer holding, quote unquote, that shape or that figure. And to hear you saying, to watch how she became full, and the beauty of full of life that was holding you and her on the inside.
Yeah.
There's a statement that I've heard years ago, that a woman becomes a co-creator with the creator in that moment.
Yeah.
And her relationship with the creator in that moment is the same as putting a seed in the earth and watch it grow, and all of a sudden you got that apple, that orange, that watermelon, and you're watering it. And what I hear from you is you were watering it with your intentions, your love, your connectiveness to your beloved, your beloveds. And so in these days and time now where you are, having Isara on this planet, I have to admit, when I see her, I just light up on the inside. It's like a ray of sunshine. To look over, to have the experience, to look at you and her into this oneness, that being, even when she came out of the womb to rest on mommy's breast, can you just go into that moment for me?
Well, I mean, I touched on it earlier, but the moment she was born, I just burst into tears. There was the midwife who was in the room. So Isara was born in water at a birthing center, and I just burst into tears. And the midwife later was like, as soon as I saw that expression from you, I knew you were gonna have a good connection and be a great dad. That's what she told me. And I mean, with that first night, I talk about it with Isara all the time, and I talk, Cece brings it up, and we have pictures of that day and that night. But that first night, I just held her in my arms while Cece rested, and Isara just just slept the whole night, And yeah, it was just the best feeling. I don't know. It just felt so good. She would stir and just kind of look up, and I was talking to her and telling her about our journey with Solomon and her brother, and about her and how thankful we are. And I don't even know what, it was something that I think you can understand. I know you can understand. It wasn't even my words. It was just coming through like the truth of the universe, of just gratitude for her, and our intentions, to be her parents and hold that space for her, and just setting kind of like my blessing and my vision for our life together. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, it feels, I imagine a lot of parents feel this way, but we just feel so blessed with her that she's just like, she's so present, and she always has been. So I don't know, right away I've never felt the need to like talk to her like a baby, like we just have conversations. She's always been able to communicate with me, even before she had words, and the words came quick. And yeah, it's something, it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day life of needs. I have needs, Cece has needs, Sarah has needs, our families, everyone has needs, and it's a lot, and we feel stretched at times. So it's easy to kind of get caught up in that and go, oh, well, who's going to do bath time? Who's going to do this? But just as easy it is to do that, it's easy to snap out of that and just feel, if I just let all that go for a moment and drop in with her, it's magic. I mean, it's pure magic. Yeah, she's just like joy and beauty and fun, and it's just the best. I don't know. It's all that goodness that I wish we could just spread throughout humanity to remind us all what we are, because it's just the truth. We're just these beings of joy, and stuff gets complicated and we overthink it and whatever, but it's just such this awesome reminder of like all the goodness of the world and of humanity.
However, you're articulating of being able to see the beauty throughout the process, seeing her getting full, the words that you've shared in the magic, the beauty, and you're connecting with that being, those beings, still today. I feel that you're sharing not only gave or give life to wanting to bring life, it actually makes me want to go have a baby right now.
I know, I want to go hug my baby.
So with all that being said, I just want to say thank you. And really, in all honesty, those words really don't convey what I really, really feel and what I'm attempting to express to you. I consider this an honor. You have no idea of how many people's lives that this sharing is going to change and put a perspective that I have not heard And the idea of doing Talk to Me, Dad, is wanting to get into this depth of all beings who take the time out to share in this space. So I consider this an honor. I want to say mahalo, thank you, and all the words of just honoring you in this space. Is there anything that you would like to share in this closing?
Well, my pleasure. I'm happy to share. I'm honored to be asked, and it feels really good to kind of dive into the journey. And I guess like how I look at it now after having one surprise and one planned was really that parenthood journey. Like I mentioned, it's all about learning how to love fully, truly unconditionally, while letting go of control. I think that's the whole thing. So if there's a pregnancy that happens that we didn't plan, that's an opportunity to start that process. Like, I didn't ask for the experience I had, but that was the journey I was given. A lot of people, I think, these spirits, they're coming through, and you have that opportunity to either deny the reality or start stepping into what they're trying to show you from that point. And it's out of your hands, so it's, I would just say it's time to start leaning into that love at that point.
There's an old saying that I truly honor, and it happens in life in general. If you ever want to make God laugh, tell him or her your plan.
Yeah, for sure.
And prepare for the journey.
Yep.
So again, thanks for talking to me, Dad.
Oh, my pleasure.